Are you talking shit?
Yeah,
You talking shit?
I'm talking shit.
That's what's gonna happen.
Get shot.
Talk shit, get shot.
We're here to talk about a movie that we just saw, X-Men Days of Future Past. It comes out today, which, what the fuck's today? May
Today's
23rd.
23rd.
So, yeah. Queef.
Alright, I'll go first. Being probably the person who's the most savvy on the X-Men films, as in I've seen all of them.
And probably comics too.
I've read a couple of the comics. I'm not as familiar with the X-Men comics as I would be like Spider-Man or something, but I'm still a huge X-Men fan, and this movie does not disappoint in terms of what this movie could be. You know, there in the comics there is, and I have read this, that there is the Days of Future Past storyline in the comics where Kitty Pryde or Shadowcat somehow manages to go back in time from the year 2012, and she goes back to 1980, which is at that time the present, and she stops the assassination of Robert Kelly, who's a Senator Robert Kelly, who's a big person and a big figure in the comic books. You know, there's a couple issues with that, which is one, Robert Kelly was killed off in the first X-Men movie. I mean, not a big spoiler there. I mean,
It's been out for
what,
fucking ever.
15 years, I think. So, no, not that long, but like 10 years or so. So, and then also they wanted to make a sequel to X-Men First Class. So, in order to have that make sense, to be able to have a lot of the same cast, they had to have it a little bit simpler. So they set it to 1973. So, and also, instead of Kitty Pryde going back, you know, Wolverine's the center of the franchise. So they send Wolverine back. I mean, if you've seen the previews, you know that. And I think the movie hits home really, really good. Just like every other X-Men movie that I've seen, it's really, really serious when it's important and when it needs to be, which is a good thing. But then it's also lighthearted at times. I don't think I've laughed harder at a movie in such a long time than the jailbreak segment with Quicksilver. I don't think I've laughed harder at a part in a while. That part was just pure entertainment. And there's like always just these quirky, funny one-liners that come up all the time, which is kind of has to do with you know, the fact that Logan's from the future and he knows things. You know. Like at one point, he after watching Professor Xavier and Magneto argue, he just looks at Magneto and just goes, so you're always an asshole. Like that's just kind of some of the things that pop up all the time, and everything about this movie hits really well. The action sequences were done very well, and they were done right and put in like the right places. The movie starts off with it, and then the final action sequence is also really, really cool. And there's just this sense of urgency that's there that isn't really there too much in a lot of comic book movies, or in a lot of the comic book movies. I think it's a lot of directors are starting to get the grasp of that, and writers are getting a grasp on that, and it's been showing up a lot more. But I mean, like, I don't know, there's just been this sense of impending doom, and just, you know, this needs to be done throughout the entire movie. And the entire cast, I mean, is amazing. I mean, of course, Hugh Jackman playing Wolverine is awesome. Jennifer Lawrence playing Mystique, who's kind of the main villain of the movie, is awesome. Peter Dinklage, who plays Trask, is you know, another great villainous character. And then, you know, Sir Patrick Stewart and Sir Ian McKellen playing the future versions of Professor X and Magneto, and then their younger counterparts played by James McAvoy and Michael Fassbender. They tried to bring back as many people from the entirety of the X-Men franchise as they could, and they wrote it in really, really well. How all the characters kind of flow, where it's like, if a character is important enough, they kind of make the cut. If they're not, I mean, they're there, but, you know, it's just cool that they're there. And then they'll throw a couple extra characters in just to add little elements in, and it's just a really cool movie. It's a really cool time travel movie, and kind of a brain fuck.
Yeah.
After a while, when you get it, when you really get into it, but it's I honestly, I know I'm probably just sound like I'm just giving this movie like super praise and like, oh, you just saw this, but I honestly can't see too much that is wrong with this movie. It's a good X-Men movie. It's a really good superhero movie, even if you count the X-Men as that. I almost kind of don't. But and then I see this as being this is in my eyes the first really big film of the summer. This was, and also the first great film of the summer. This movie in my eyes was just great. All the special effects, like I said, the action, the acting, and just how they worked in history and actual history and their own X-Men history into it and ties in with the comics is just so masterfully done that it's just a great movie. You should definitely go see it while it's still in theaters. Otherwise, you're really missing out.
First of all, I want to say Hugh Jackman's ass was phenomenal, and it's just
It's a great ass.
it's a perfect ass. But no, this movie was amazing, and I mean, I agree with everything Keith said. I just felt, I'm just gonna get out of the way. The only slightly nitpicky thing that I think I have to say about this, and it's such a nitpicky thing, and it's probably more of just a personal thing, is, the movie takes place at kind of a present time and in the past. And I felt like the present time was a little bit brief.
I kind of see where
like
you're coming
it
from.
was like when the movie starts and the camera's panning over New York City, and I'm just like, oh my god, like I want to know more of how this happened. This is so interesting, but I felt that whole part was a little brief.
I could agree with that.
But that's literally the only thing I can see that I would have liked to see more of. I felt this movie. First of all, the acting was just so well done in this movie. It was so, like, everyone really shined. Everyone played their character perfectly, I felt. There was a lot of personality to each character. Like, especially, Wolverine with Hugh Jackman. But even other ones, Professor Xavier, played by, what's his
Patrick
name?
Stewart.
Sir
Sir Patrick Stewart. And
Yeah, with the other guy.
James McAvoy.
Yeah, like, his acting I thought was phenomenal. The guy that played Magneto was fucking great.
Sorry,
I mean,
or Michael Fassbender.
Yeah, I mean, everybody was fantastic, and I feel that just because they pulled off the characters and the personalities, that's what really made this just a great movie. And I felt just the scenery, that the scenes that actually happened were just, some of them were just so fucking well done and so phenomenal. Such as the scene with Quicksilver, which I honestly did not see that coming at all. And so that was just so cool. That's probably the coolest scene in the whole movie. Just how well done that was. It was just, yeah, it felt like for like, just a couple minutes you're watching a fucking comedy. It was so cool. The scene where, and if you've seen the trailers, you've seen it just, like the stadium, getting torn apart and floating across Washington, D.C. That scene was incredible. The fight scene towards the end was just epic and just made you go like, oh shit. And like Keith said, there was a sense of urgency. Something I felt was kind of missing from like Godzilla, but it was here. And in the last 20 minutes, you just did not, you kind of knew how it was going to end, but not 100% knew how it was going to end and how it was going to get to that conclusion. And it was just, nail biting. It was like, oh my god, how's this going to happen? I just think the whole movie was just well done. And, the animations, the special effects were phenomenal. It was just a well done, big budget superhero film. And honestly, I haven't seen as many as these guys, but this is probably one of my favorite superhero films that I've ever seen. This is a seriously good movie. I thought the plot was well done too. It was just really, really good. The ending's a little bit of a mind fuck, but once you wrap your mind around it, it makes sense. It's a really good ending. I just felt this whole movie was just satisfying. When we saw Godzilla last week, I was like, that's a good movie, but I was expecting a little bit more. This was just exactly what I was expecting and more. So this is a very satisfying movie. I recommend it to anybody that likes action movies or superheroes or X-Men or whatever. I don't even care. If you're not interested in them, you should watch this movie because it's fucking tits.
And we all love tits.
Yes.
I love tits. Jennifer Lawrence tits. I wish I could have seen more of them.
Yeah.
But Hugh Jackman's ass made up for it. Hugh Jackman is fucking ripped.
Oh my
in this movie.
Holy.
And it is hot.
I was actually going to say,
Ladies,
Like I felt kind of gay.
ladies,
But I don't care.
if there are any female subscribers, go see this movie, and your panties will magically disappear within the first probably 20 minutes of the film.
what?
Just gone. Poof. Poof. You will feel a wet sensation, and then your panties will disappear. Because like these guys said, Hugh Jackman is fucking ripped. Like just his back, just like bam.
Like his
holy-
chest.
Yeah.
Just, oh yeah. Like I wish. Like
So he looked like he
seriously,
sculpted out of marble.
When this
Yeah.
movie comes out, I might buy it and just pause right there and get a quick whack in.
and then
just,
quickly clean up so that nobody knows it ever happened.
Actually, I don't know if I will. I'll just sit there and like, oh my god, I'm not gay.
Yeah.
Maybe I am. Sometimes
A little
I
bit
don't
bi,
know.
maybe.
No,
Your
I'm
girlfriend
definitely not
questions
bi.
Almost.
I'm. That's this. I was getting to a whole new video.
Nah, there's nothing.
Can we
there's
just
nothing
make a
good.
video
Yeah.
about Hugh Jackman's ass? This video is not about X-Men. It's about
But-
Hugh Jackman's ass.
There's really nothing these guys have said that I'm probably not going to say, and I completely agree with everything they've said. The only nitpicky part I have is, there could have been a little more build up to, the whole Sentinel situation in the
Which-
beginning of the movie.
Is a fantastic enemy.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, the Sentinel.
That's
it's like the perfect.
I
enemy.
love enemies like that, whether in video games or movies, where they seem impossible to beat, and you don't know how you know how it's going to happen.
Yeah.
They were fantastic.
But yeah, with the sense of urgency, you could kind of feel it a little bit in the beginning of the movie, and then kind of when Wolverine gets sent back in time. Sorry, not Wolverine. His consciousness gets sent back in time. It kind of eases back a little bit, kind of lulls you almost into a false sense of security, I'd say. And then as you get towards the climax,
It's funny because
It's so funny.
it's
of the movie, because Tyler's just
Gosh,
talking about getting a
mine's
quick whack.
like 10-year-olds. Actually, 10-year-olds don't know how to. I'm just gonna shut up. I'm distracted right now.
By Hugh Jackman's ass. And Jennifer Lawrence's.
I'm just going to think about Hugh Jackman's ass and be quiet while you talk.
But as you're getting towards like the ending of the movie, you feel it just like it takes the urgency you felt at the beginning of the movie and just ramps it up like 100 times more, because you see people dying a lot and very quickly.
Yeah.
The acting was absolutely incredible. The chemistry between characters was
Yes.
fucking awesome.
Yes.
Like the chemistry between James McAvoy and Michael Fassbender as young Xavier and Eric was pretty much on the same level as between Sir Patrick Stewart and Sir Ian McKellen as the versions of themselves that we know of and come to enjoy. I've only ever seen the original 3 X-Men movies, mainly because Last Stand sucked. I didn't bother watching any. Now I'm going to go back and watch First Class at least. And probably the Wolverine. But that's because fucking Hugh Jackman is in that. He's just fucking ripped.
Yeah.
Is Hugh Jackman's ass in it?
It's not.
Yeah.
I'm not watching.
But yeah, like these guys said, all the fight scenes were incredible. The scenes with Quicksilver were absolutely fucking hysterical. Like, the scene in the Pentagon as they're breaking Magneto out. He just puts on the headphones. Like, you just see kind of how he perceives the world, that it shifts into that sort of camera view, where everything just kind of stops. He's just sitting there, he puts on his headphones, and I forget what the fucking song was.
I don't know, but it, like,
Awesome jam.
it was just the
It was
perfect
the
song to
perfect
make it
song.
funny.
Yeah. And he's just moving around, he's fucking with people. He gets one guy set up to punch himself in the face. And
Even the scene when they first meet him
yeah,
in
he's
his
just
house.
zipping around. He's like, oh, I went and did a background check on you. And
It's like, oh,
Check your
I checked
registration.
your registration in your car. It's like,
Yeah.
are you FBI?
He's like playing ping pong
Nope.
with himself, and then all of a sudden he zips over. He's playing arcade games.
yeah.
It's
Honestly,
just funny.
they should. I don't know. I think they've got Aaron Taylor Johnson from Godzilla being Quicksilver and
Just get the same
A-
guy.
and Age
Get
of
this guy.
He'll have the
Apocalypse
same
or
facial
Age of
expressions.
Ultron. I think is what he's in.
Yeah, Age of Ultron.
Switch to this guy because I don't. Again, I'm not very familiar with a lot of these mutants because I was more of a DC Comics guy than Marvel. So please don't rape me in the comments. So a lot of the mutants I was not very familiar with, like Warpath, who was in this movie, like Bishop, who was in this movie. You know, Sunspot,
Blink.
Blink. I wasn't very familiar with, but the scene with Blink thinking with portals
Is
towards
awesome.
the end of the fight scene.
It's awesome. Here in Colossus,
Yeah.
thinking with portals. You gotta think with portals.
Always think with portals.
Deadpool thinks with portals.
Yeah. The scene in the White House with President Nixon, and he pulls out the recording thing and stops it, and Keith just leaned over to me. He's like, "Is that what I think?" I was like, "Yeah, that's Watergate."
It's like, I was like, yeah, there's just so many little things like that, like, and then, you know, they explain the Kennedy assassination, you know, it's like, oh,
Magneto was responsible for the Kennedy assassination.
it's just, I feel like that's just really cool, tying stuff like that into this universe.
Yeah. And the whole story arc with Mystique almost is, again, I never read the comics all that much, but it kind of made me look at Mystique as a character in a completely different way because of her history with Charles and Eric.
Yeah, it's explored a lot more in First Class, but this is like definitely a continuation of that.
Yeah.
Instead of just being a badass killing machine that she is in the first 3, she actually has depth in these films.
She actually is more of a character than just a basically person on screen.
Yeah.
And I have to agree with Keith. I think this is probably the. Then again, I haven't seen the new Captain America yet, but I think this is probably going to be the blockbuster movie of the summer, at least in terms of superhero movies. I don't think there's any others coming out this year.
I think Guardians of the Galaxy is coming out, but that's about it.
Yeah. But honestly, this blew the hell out of Godzilla as being a box office destroyer. It might be the movie of the summer.
It
Okay.
might even be the movie of the year.
Maybe.
Possibly.
All right.
Nice.
Before we get to the scores, I have one thing. What do you think is the best acted scene of the movie, or the just the best moment? Like mine is, and it's in the trailer, so again, it's not spoiling. It's when both incarnations of Professor Xavier they meet up and they have their conversation. That is like one of my favorite moments of this whole thing, especially acting wise. That's just a very good moment.
I think for me, the scene when everybody's on Logan, Charles, Eric, and Hank, otherwise known as Beast, are on the jet flying to Paris, and
You
thinking the
stole
same
mine
thing.
in Godzilla, and you stole mine again.
the scene where Eric and Charles, like Eric brings over the chess set, and then sort of get into this conversation which also kind of explores more of the backstory between those two. And they just start playing chess.
Alright, I'm gonna pick another one then. The scene where Charles was, I guess, getting into people's minds to talk to Raven
Yeah.
in the airport.
That was pretty cool.
That was wonderful. That was so cool.
And really quickly before that, I feel like they did so well tying in to First Class. Like, they had Havoc in there for a little bit, but then they kind of explained what happened to everybody else. Like, all of the people who left with Magneto, you find out what happened to them, why they're not in the movie, and it's like, they did a really good job just kind of tying things in, explaining how everything happened to everybody at this point. How everybody's where they're at, especially back in the 70s. They did a really good job with that.
Yeah.
I thought, so.
Well, apparently mutants live a really fucking long time and without aging.
Only technically Mystique and Logan, because Mystique, she's like technically like 40, but she looks like she's 20. She ages like some weird thing, but then Logan, he just same age.
He's immortal.
He can't die. So, okay, all right, let's do ratings. I guess I'll go. I'd give this a very solid 9.5 out of 10. This is a great movie, a definite must-watch for the avid moviegoer.
Alright. Well, so I can't steal your score.
Man.
I am going to have to go with a definite 9.7.
Ooh.
At least for me. I mean, I'm not just trying to two up Keith here. This was just incredible. The writing was great. The acting was awesome. The effects were there. This is going to be the movie of the summer. Yeah, 9.7 out of 10.
What does Iron Man give this movie?
This movie sucked. Not enough Iron Man. Not enough Deadpool.
Not enough Robert Downey Jr.
Not enough RDJ.
1 out of 10.
I'm gonna give this movie a solid, fucking solid as my ass, solid as Hugh Jackman's muscly ass. 9.25 out of 10.
Ooh.
This is a phenomenal movie, and you all should watch it, or you're doing it wrong. You should just
See it in theaters, definitely.
Yeah, theaters.
yeah. See it in IMAX 3D YOLO mode.
And blaze it.
Yeah.